Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is nosh. Let's take a look at the definition of this verb. The first way you might hear nosh used is to mean to eat a snack. The second definition is very closely related. It's to munch on snacks between meals. Now, some people might be looking at this word and thinking, I haven't seen it. I'm unfamiliar with it. This word actually comes from Yiddish. So this happens with many languages where we borrow different words. So sometimes you hear these called loan words. Nosh is a loan word from Yiddish. The Yiddish language has been spoken for over 1,000 years. It comes from Hebrew and German. It was primarily spoken by people of Jewish faith in Germany, again, over 1,000 years ago. And now you'll hear people in a variety of countries speak Yiddish. You can study Yiddish at some colleges and universities as well. But that's what we're going to focus on this week are different Yiddish loan words that are verbs that you might hear, particularly as you're consuming literature or reading stories from someone who might have a little more experience and familiarity. I am not an expert in Yiddish. It actually required me to do a little reading up on this. I'm familiar with the word, I knew what it meant, but I didn't know much about its origin. But I still think kind of a fun word. What inspired me to make this our verb of the day is that I was actually dining at a restaurant with this name, and they had the definition posted near their menu on the wall. And I thought, this might make for some interesting discussion. So, nosh is a verb of the day. It's a regular verb. So if we want to make a progressive form, all we're going to do is add ing to form noshing. The past tense and participle forms of this verb are going to be made by adding ed. And since our base verb ends in a sh sound, an unvoiced sound, our past tense ending is going to make more of a T sound. Noshed, noshed. Okay. Now, I have one phrasal verb for us to look at. It's not really all that different, but I wanted to note that it's pretty common to see nosh on used in sentences, right? So what comes after that on is the something that people are eating or snacking on, or what they're making a snack out of. So an example of this phrasal verb in a sentence might be, after Thanksgiving, we'll nosh on turkey and stuffing sandwiches for days. So this particular sentence really ties back to the second part of that meaning or definition, so making a snack out of something. So we are still a little over a month away from Thanksgiving in the United States, but it is a holiday where people tend to make a lot of food, and then they'll have leftovers for many days after that. So someone's suggesting with this sentence that we are going to make a snack out of leftover turkey and stuffing, or sometimes you'll hear that called dressing. Now let's continue practicing our verb of the day in a couple different verb tenses. Today we're going to practice the present progressive and the simple present. Let's start with the present progressive. Now, you might remember we're using this verb tense to talk about something that is happening right now or something that is in progress. To make the present progressive, you need two parts. You need a present form of be, so that's am, is, or are, and then you need that ing form of the verb. Let's look at an affirmative example. They're noshing on nachos while watching the game. Okay, so in this sentence, right, you can see I have a contraction form. So the form of be there comes at the end of the contraction there. And then we can see that ing form of the verb. So we know they're snacking on nachos while they are also watching the game. So describing something happening now. If you want to make a negative present progressive sentence, just insert not after your be verb. Here's another example. He isn't noshing on fried foods. So here I took the contraction is not, made it isn't. You might see that with are not as well. That can change to aren't, but there isn't a contraction with am not. Okay, so just don't push those two together when your subject is I. If you want to ask a yes or no question in the present progressive, start with your form of be, whichever form matches your subject. The subject is going to come next, and then we're going to use that ing form of the verb. Are you noshing on tacos? Okay. Again, asking someone maybe like what they're doing right now. Okay. Now let's take a look at our simple present sentences. We use this verb tense to talk about habits and facts. We also use it to discuss routines as well, which can be a little bit like a habit. The thing to remember in the affirmative is that we need to pay attention to our subject. If our subject is I, you, we, or they, then we're just going to use the base verb, no special endings. But if the subject is he, she, or it, we would want to add an es onto the end of this verb. Now, let's look at the affirmative or positive example. The kids nosh on apples, cheese, and crackers after school. Okay, so we have kids. This is like saying they, so that's why you see just the base verb. If I was talking about one child, right, then I would use that es form of the verb. So a child or one child noshes on apples, cheese, and crackers. If you want to make a negative simple present sentence, then again, our structure is going to depend on what the subject is. If the subject is I, you, we, or they, you'll use do, not, and then the base verb. If the subject is he, she, or it, you'll use does not, and then the base verb. And again, you might see contractions with this. So do not becomes don't, and does not becomes doesn't. Here's another example. He doesn't nosh between meals. So here I'm talking about someone's habit. This is a person who doesn't snack between meals. If you want to ask a yes or no question in the simple present, start with do or does. Then you can have your subject and then the base verb. Okay. Now, I want to point out really quickly, notice with the negative and the yes or no question, we're not using our es form of the verb. Okay, so we're only doing that in the affirmative. But now let's read our yes or no question. Do you nosh on different foods when you are traveling? Okay, so again, we're kind of asking about someone's habits, this time like when you're traveling. Maybe you want to try new foods. Now, let's take just a moment to look at a related word. So we've been talking about nosh serving as a verb, but that same word, same spelling, same pronunciation can also be used as a noun. When the word is used as a noun, we're referring to a snack or some small item of food. So not a huge meal. Okay? An example of this might be the restaurant serves nostalgic noshes. So again, this idea, maybe smaller portions, smaller appetizers, not like a huge dish or meal. Thanks so much for watching today's video. I hope you have a great day.